Welcome to Taking Healthy Back with Maria, with your host, Maria Malik, experience coach, conscience educator, and destination retreat host, presents to you countless ways to overcome an overwhelmed, overprocessed, and over-medicated lifestyle. She'll be covering everything wellness, from getting more from life than you put into it, destination retreats to healthy cooking and conscious education. So please welcome the host of Taking Healthy Back with Maria.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Taking Healthy Back with Maria. I'm your host, Maria Malik, and this channel is all about getting back to feeling better and in control of your health as God created, as it should be, right? Today, we have Forged for Wellness with Ryan Owens. Get ready for an eye-opening conversation with Ryan, who's a devoted father, husband, and leader in the Tampa Bay area. In this episode, he shares a powerful story of transformation, breaking free from a 20-year addiction, reclaiming his spiritual, physical, and financial health, and saving his marriage in the process. As a video marketing trainer and a real estate professional, Ryan also leads the Forged Brotherhood men's group, encouraging men to step into their God-given gifts and live authentic purpose. Welcome, Ryan. So glad to have you.
I'm so happy to be here, and I'm just sitting here just smiling with that introduction, something I would not have expected earlier this year in 2024.
Well, that's
Thanks
awesome.
for having me.
Oh, I've been chasing you probably for about a year. And
Yes.
I guess it's been in this last year that you've made this great breakthrough and transformation. And, I want people to know that the word forged it's an intense effort and transformation, and wholeness basically means complete. So,
Right.
I don't think we're ever all really complete, but that's the goal. And I just wanted to know that because you want to be so authentic online, and you're very vocal and showing up authentically, how do you balance being transparent while respecting your privacy and all the things that you're going through?
Well, sometimes I wonder if I should have respected my privacy a little bit more. Oftentimes I have that little guy on my shoulder who's like, hey, are you saying too much? And of course, there are other people who may not believe in the level of authenticity that I do that kind of warn me against it as well. But it's been a very important part of the growing process. You see, I'm not trying to get to the finish line, because when you get there, you're finished. So
Right.
I'm trying to develop and see what the man is becoming. So I want people to know that I've made a decision a long time ago that living authentically was going to have to be, especially being online, a place of true authenticity, which requires transparency. And through inviting other people into my story and what's gone on in my life, I have had these amazing partnerships and doors opened and conversations started, which is the whole reason for social media anyway, is to start a conversation. And boy, has it started some great ones. Here we are.
Good. Have you gotten some backlash from
Of course.
what you've revealed?
Absolutely. I've got some backlash from people I didn't even expect it to come from, because people do really like to compartmentalize their lives. And I appreciate that. And oftentimes, like I said, even myself, I've been like, are you saying too much? I mean, you're putting your information out there about your addictions, your struggles, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to do business with that. That was that little voice in the back of my head that really didn't wanted me to stay more hidden. And I could appreciate a portion of it. But yeah, there was backlash that came from people that, try to show the best parts of themselves, their highlight reels online. They think that the best way to attract business is to be the thing that they think that people want to see the most, which is a well put together, completely sane, healed, whole leader at home, leader in the marketplace. But that's not real. That's not real for the vast majority of us. And I have a desire and a goal to be as real as possible so that I can help others. Because Maria, look, I'll say this, who can we help? the best, the people that we used to be. And
Right.
I've been a lot of different people along this journey. So I've got a lot of people to help, and I can't do that by being quiet.
True. And from a previous coach, if you put everything out there, nobody's got anything on you. You know what I
That's another
mean?
good positive about it as well.
Yeah.
There's not much secrets that can pop up. There's a lot of people we see out in the marketplace, or celebrities, and like, oh, look at these tweets from '09 and look at all this stuff in their past. I've told you guys everything, so there's nothing to pop up from this point, and that definitely brings some comfort.
Exactly. So I don't know how many years ago we met, but to get into the conversation about the addiction you overcame, we met when we were trying to get cannabis legal in Florida. So
Yep,
I don't know how many years ago that was. Was it 10 years? Was it 7 years? But
it's somewhere in that range.
yeah. So that's how we met. And my life too has dramatically changed since then. So you want to talk about your overcoming?
Look, I'm all for cannabis and its legalization, and for people to be free to be able to treat the ailments that they have. There's a lot of great benefits to this wonderful plant called the cannabis plant that is helps a lot of people with epilepsy, and a lot of people with cancer, and being able to take in nutrients that they wouldn't otherwise. There's so many great things, but there's also a duality of bad things. A
Mhm.
Tylenol is wonderful for a headache, but if you take 18 of them, you die. So
Right.
I just know that there is a
Great
addiction
point.
in me to alter my state of mind, for me to be through all the trauma and stuff that I was unwilling to deal with. I could easily, and within seconds, usually, when it comes to the smoking modality, take something in and completely alter myself, and be not so concerned about everything. Be like, whatever, just that manana type of thing. And I was really focused in
Mhm.
on what was in front of me instead of the big picture of my life. And I really liked that. So cannabis can be used for great medicinal things. But for me, as an addict, of someone who wants to constantly change my state of mind to hide, it
Mhm.
wasn't to come out in the open. It wasn't to do more, but I find myself hiding from the traumas and dramas that I didn't want to deal with, just stuffing it down more, being very insidious as it started poking up in my inability to, further my business, and my inability to be truly present with my kids, and my non-motivation to have the energy to be around
Mhm.
kids of the 4 and 8 years old. So it had a lot of negative effects, and it had to go. It was hindering me. So
Right, right. And when I got disenchanted with cannabis was when I realized that it was more about the money and less about the healing. And I was
mm,
a big advocate for the healing aspect of it. And when I just
sure.
saw that, you know, crappy quality was coming out, you could get it anywhere. And um, so I dropped off of that bandwagon. And like you, I agree that it's a wonderful plant, and I'd rather someone be on
Yeah,
that than pharmaceuticals. Um,
absolutely.
so when did you like? What was the drop dead point where you're like, okay, that's it? How is it affecting your life and your relationships? And when did you just say, that's it, I'm done?
Well, a lot of us, because we have an addictive voice in our mind that tries to rationalize, you can just use it on the weekends. You can use it sparingly. You don't have to use it in the morning. But someone who's addicted will constantly find that addictive voice justifying the ability to just do it. You can do it. Don't listen to all that, you're fine. Just keep going. Just keep using me. It wants to be used. It wants to have a relationship with you, and it wants to really take over for someone like me who's addicted to it. So I have a long tenure of a relationship with Mary Jane, my old friend. I had 23 plus years of almost daily use since around the time that my father had passed away, when I was a few days before I was 16. When I was 16, I started using. I had used since then almost every single day. So I had times to look at. When I stopped, what happened? Well, when I stopped, I became the number one car salesman when I got into sales in cars, and I set rookie records my second month because I had quit. I had a spiritual awakening. I had an engagement. I bought a house. I had these wonderful things that would happen when I would give myself the freedom, which I could only do for a maximum of about 6 months. That was tough to be away from it from that long. And often, because of my addictive mind, I had trouble even seeing myself stopping for a day, let alone 3 days for what we call like a tea break or something like that. So I have the long experience of just looking back and seeing the times that I had taken off. Did my life go up? Did my life go down? Each and every time I had
Yeah.
milestones in my life, every time. So that was a sign. Success leaves clues, and that was a clue.
Okay, but what was it like when
Okay.
you like? How did you get to the point where you just said, "That's it, no more, no going back"?
Well, I had done it several times prior to when my marriage was starting to get really rocky, and post me, during the time when I decided to start a business. I also decided after 8 months of getting away from cannabis. So again, great things were happening. I want to start a business. I've got the bravery and the
Mhm.
drive to, because of this, to go out and start a business. And a lot of stress came into my life, and I started using again. And everything started falling apart. I had a upper respiratory infection for 2 months. I was having fights with my wife. I was again slowing down instead of going forward with someone starting a business. I was finding myself fogged up and unclear headed and not be able to pursue my goals. So I just had enough was enough, because I had again used after not using for a long time, and found myself once again, life was going downhill. Motivation was going downhill. I could no longer let cannabis be the thing that's holding me back from
Mhm.
God's mission in my life. I just had seen clearly that this is not helping my mission. It might help others, but I had to self-assess and say it doesn't work for me. So I can't do it anymore. It
I
became
got
very
it.
clear.
Yes. Well, that's good. And did you throw everything out, and was it hard? Was it hard overcoming that for the last time? Do you believe it was the last time?
Yes, I had seen that. Number one, I had given myself memories of, I can do this. I've done it in the past, but then I
Mhm.
had come back to it because, again, cannabis, unbeknownst to me, was being used to self-medicate things that I did not want to deal with. A lot of people don't think about it that deeply. I happen to be a deep introspective thinker, and I realized that, the reason I keep coming back to it is because I won't look into the trauma and drama that's in my life that I don't want to deal with a clear head. I'd rather kind of just smooth over it with cannabis. So I had to get rid of everything, all the paraphernalia. I had to make sure that my license in Florida had expired, that when my doctor called me up for that follow-up visit, that I did not go and get that done. I had to make sure that I had no access to it at all, because unlike others, some people don't believe that you can be addicted to cannabis. I was addicted mentally and semi-physiologically to cannabis. So I knew that. I knew that if I started again, I would keep going. There was no doubt about that. So I just had to make sure I didn't have any access to it, and getting rid of that. And for a lot of people, getting rid of friends, thankfully, I used alone. So I didn't have friends like I used 2 years ago that perpetuated the cycle. But getting rid of it and getting it out of your house and having no way of accessing it was absolutely a big help for stopping. Hmm.
That's
No
awesome.
doubt.
We're almost ready for a break here, but I want to talk about, when we get back, what you use instead of cannabis to overcome difficult situations in your life.
That'll
And
be the good stuff. I look forward
yeah,
to that.
all right, good. We'll be right back. Thank you. You would think, even a VA hospital, if you're a veteran, that they would have a program like this. You
You would
know,
think, yeah, you would think, but it's not as simple to resolve as it sounds, because you have to have the volunteer personnel, you have to have the
Mhm.
space, you have to, it's not just watching the dog, it's being able to take that dog to a veterinarian if it needs medical attention.
Mhm.
Um, there's just so many components to it. And you know, I know this because we put the program together, and we've been learning as we've gone, because there's no one we can call and go, hey, how did you handle this? So I mean, we've really learned a lot, and I understand why it's not as easy.
I think sometimes we do the things that we didn't.
So, what lessons have you learned that you can impart with our listeners?
I would say without a doubt, the big lesson that I've learned in all this is the importance of the people that you choose to allow to be around you. That has been absolutely my life. I know for whatever reason, I used to fancy myself as a great leader when I was growing up. I thought I was a leader amongst all the kids and all that stuff. But all I know is every time I hung around people that did drugs, I did drugs. And so I needed to understand that stepfather growing up, he'd always tell me, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're talking to Ryan Owens, Forge for Wholeness. And we just got done talking about his overcoming 20-year addiction. And now we're going to find out what he does to replace the old habits of overcoming. So welcome back, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. You mean just get right into that?
Please.
All right. Well, the first thing I had to do, and I want to mention this, is a lot of people will try to convince you, because now it used to be a McDonald's on every street. Now there's a dispensary on every corner now, and that, you know, you can't get addicted to it, and that it's really it's okay. But it's, for me and a lot of others, if you can't get yourself to stop, there's a problem, and there's something inside that is holding you back from working around. So that's what it was. Once I cleared the fog, I was able to see that I was letting, number one, cannabis increases estrogen in the body for a man. Okay. Which is, for a man, is not a great motivator. Okay. It'll definitely make you think, and it'll analyze everything, and you'll be creative and time, you know, doing stuff like that, and want to be out in the woods and mañana. But a man needs to build. And one of the things that was holding me back from was building my body, my life, my business. So once I was able to stop, I started with a mentor a long while ago told me, Ryan, you're simply not going to reach your goals if you don't focus in on your health and wellness. This was something that a very wise woman who now lives in Portugal spoke into my life. And I heard it as if it was God telling me, you need to focus on your temple and your body, or you simply will not be able to reach your goals. Part of my brand is energy. Part of what I'm able to do into the world as someone who didn't graduate high school and dropped out, one of my biggest things is, number one, an accumulation of a bunch of skills, but applying energy behind those. So I had no energy. So that doesn't allow for me to show up in the world the way that I need to be able to help others, to build things, to make my life better. So what I did is I supplemented using cannabis with getting into an active exercise lifestyle. I was also a person that not only using cannabis, but I had a full cabinet full of supplements, thousands of dollars worth of supplements, everything from powdered liver to N-acetylcysteines and lemon balms and just not syringes, but the droppers and all that other stuff. There's just tons of stuff. It's thousands of dollars, and I'm not getting any better, but I'm on this perpetual healing journey. So what I found is I just needed to move my body. Emotion comes from motion. And I found out I just had to slowly get myself to a place of moving again. Cannabis doesn't want you to move. It wants you to sit still. It wants you to be on the couch. It wants you to take in carbs, which also makes us a little large, those carbs sometimes, especially in abundance. So it was just simply switching from moving. I had to get out there and move my body. And over the last 4.5 months, I've done that to a place of consistency. It's completely changed my life. My cabinet is empty of supplements now. I simply take a fiber supplement, which all of us need. I take a vitamin D3 because I don't get much D3 from the sun. I have a gene mutation, which doesn't allow it. And then I have omega-3s because that good cholesterol needs to raise up a little bit. So I've got like 3 supplements right now as opposed to 50. But it really was when a man or a woman finds themselves moving and disciplining themselves to push themselves past their old self of being sedentary and not moving. I found like it wasn't just enhancing my body, it enhanced my mind. Nothing has helped my mind better. None of those supplements, none of the
Mhm.
pharmaceuticals I may have used years ago, nothing was more. I found out that there is a hope molecule, they're calling it, that actually, when you squeeze your muscles, secretes from your muscles and actually brings up these boost serotonin and all these good feel good chemicals that drive you to want to better your life and the people's lives
Mhm.
around you. So the proof's in the pudding. I spent time experimenting with myself, which I've always done,
Me
and
too.
supplemented using cannabis to and moving my body. It was that simple.
That's interesting that you say all that because I used to have hundreds of dollars of supplements,
So much
and
money.
we should be getting it from our food, good quality food. But like cannabis or any other thing, is these things are supplements, but they're also a substitute for the real deal. And
Yes,
I've always been searching for the real deal. And there's a lot of people talking about grounding, and we know that's great. And it's not a trendy thing. It's a real thing. So
absolutely.
that's
It
part
is.
of my replacement. I also heard that touching a tree can ground you. Just touching a tree. Not you don't have to hug it. You just have to touch it because think about it, where their roots are and everything. So I take very few supplements as well, and I'm getting it from my food. And I feel way better, and our bank account feels way better. Um, there's
Yeah.
you know what, you talked about social media and communicating. I every time you go on social media, someone's trying to sell you something. This is better and that
Yes.
is better. This is the best thing you've ever taken. And I've been a sucker for clicking on them to see what they're all about. But again, if it's not created naturally in nature and it's created in a lab, it doesn't have the energy source. We are light. Food, I just learned, is just a vehicle for the energy of the sun. That
Yeah.
blew my mind. That's a conversation for another day.
I'd love to
But
talk about that sometime. Yes.
yeah, I'm just agreeing with all that you're saying. And I didn't want to make this all, your addiction heavy, but I want people to
It's
know that
important.
we're all struggling with different things, and we all have different vices, and some are harder to get rid of than others. But I want to talk about, your transformation with God. And for me,
There we go.
once you finally taste the goodness of God, like you really understand it and know it, that's all you want. That's all I
Yes.
think about. So
Yes.
tell me about your experience.
Well, just tying it all together, one other thing I have to mention about cannabis is that I used to be, during that cannabis time, a meditator and someone who was trying to connect with God. What I found was when I was steeped heavily into cannabis, I used to feel like I could connect to God. And then there was like I could almost see a giant manhole that was almost stopping my ability to connect with God. It was just, it was blocked. That was another reason that because I'm a very spiritually in tune man. I'm seeking after
Mhm.
God my entire life, and I'm finding that me isolating myself and putting myself in this and feeding this addiction was also capping my ability to connect with God. Whether that was happening or not, I felt it. I felt a disconnection, and that was another reason that motivated me to get rid of it there. But as far and all these things have a downstream effect. I had to quit the addiction to be able to get into the gym and then to start eating well, to then fuel my mind clearly knowing that, oh
Yeah.
yeah, God's out there. God's not my spare tire anymore. I just had a tire pop and I realized I had a spare tire back there. I haven't had to do that in a while. And it was the same thing with God. driving down the street, everything's all well, no challenges, or, there's nothing on the dash, there's nothing lighting up. And then I realized, oh, I got a spare tire. That was God for me. Only in the deepest times of challenge and when things get real bad, I realized, oh yeah, God's back there. So I had to realize recently that I don't want God as my spare tire anymore. God's going to take the wheel. Jesus take the wheel was literally what I was thinking about. But if it wasn't for the end in the addiction, moving the body, clearing the mind, I would have still been in deep confusion to try to look for healing there, look for that extra supplement, eat that food, not really pay attention to my future at all, really get stuck in my past and all the things that I had been through and constantly want to heal. But if it wasn't for those things in a row, I would not have been able to tune in with God, which I have done now, which has completely transformed my life. If there's a good supplement out there, it's God. God is the ultimate supplement for me to make me be able to perform my best in life, is having a deep relationship with Christ and God.
Well, the conclusion I've come to is it's not so much that we need to heal, it's that we need to get back into relationship.
Amen.
That's what's missing. It's not that we're all walking around broken and we need to be fixed. We need to get back into relationship. And that realization changed a lot for me, because once you get the relationship with God going, then the relationships of people around you start working. What do you think about that?
Well, what that brought up for me was that, a lot of people are, you'll find if you go on TikTok, you'll find a lot of Christians and other spiritual people warring with themselves. This scripture means this theology is the best, this and that and that. And everyone is, especially people who haven't found that relationship with God. They're like, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to be a part of this arguing and quarreling and what theology is the best, what religion, what God, all this stuff. Because people are getting lost in the sauce. Like, I had to actually strive for a direct relationship with God, not negating scripture, not negating church, not negating the people in the church. But if I don't have a direct, God works. God gives you the ability to connect with him. God has a power that he instills into his people, and that can be felt, and the fruit of that spirit will start to show for those who are in relationship with God. That joy, that love, that peace, that self-control, that faithfulness, that goodness, that kindness starts just naturally happening. So you can argue about scripture all day and spend the rest of your life saying, oh, you don't have that right, and here's a contradiction here, or all this thinking instead of the heart-centered, deep relationship with the one true spirit that's offering you peace, love, and joy. So regardless of all that other stuff that I was getting confused and getting caught up in, what about just trying to have a relationship? You don't need a book. You don't need a church. You don't need anything. And I suggest you do have those things. Those are great things that you should have. But without a direct connection with a relationship with God, what does it even matter? So I just started to focus in on a prayerful, deep relationship. And when I started meditating now, I started meditating on the prayer or on the presence of God in my life, and really started surrendering a lot of my intellectualism, because I really wanted to know God instead of experience him. And now I'm experiencing God, which is a whole another realm. Intellectualism will get in the way of your surrender. We have limitations. I've got limitations, and I had to humble myself to realize that. But now, yes, I'm experiencing a true relationship with God, and everything in my life that used to be going downhill, used to be full of addiction, used to be in a bad marriage, and heading towards destruction, separating a beautiful family, is now all coming back together, because God never wanted to see any of that happen. But me straying away from that relationship was fertile ground for all of that to be destroyed.
So what do you say to a person who says, "Well, Ryan, there's no proof"? How do you explain the proof of God working through you, or your relationship, or the realness, because it's real to you?
People love proof, and I get it. Again, as someone who
Mhm.
approached spirituality through intellectualism and wanting to know everything, studying all the ancient Israelites, studying ancient Hebrew. Most people don't do that. Studying the scripture, wanting to know everything, want to be legalistic, really want to be a modern day Pharisee. I want to know it all. I want to have the true religion. I want to tell you what's good and what's not. Still, I didn't have the fruit. The fruit is
Mhm.
really the indicator. It's the barometer. Are we there? There will be fruit. Are we not there? We'll have this anger and division and confusion, and we'll be like, you're wrong and I'm right, and egoic conversations. But when the compassion starts showing for a man who used to be angry at every red light and everybody that cut him off, turning into someone who's kind and understanding, hey, this person might be on the way to the hospital. When someone starts having new ways of being showing up in their life, not through doing works or reading scripture, but through that direct relationship with God, it starts changing a person. They go from hate to love. They go from envy and fear to God doesn't offer a spirit of fear. We start becoming fearless. There is change that takes place.
Mhm.
There is a renewal of the mind. And you can see that fruit. Your family members and the people who are willing to support you will say, I see a change in you. I see you doing great things. I see you present with the children. I see when normally in the morning, because you're not a morning person, where those kids would have annoyed you when they're waking up at 5:50 and you're all grumpy, and you pat them on the head and ask them, hope that they have a good day. There's changes that take place. It's a real
Mm.
transformation.
Yeah, because where our heart is and where our treasure is, what I think there is a scripture where your treasure is your heart or something. I'm not good with the scripture, but um,
Scripture
when
recall is difficult for me from time to time too.
when you change from the inside, that's what we reflect out. So that's what your family and other people are feeling. And you know what? It makes other people feel uncomfortable sometimes because they like the old you. You know what I mean? And with
Yes.
that, Ron, we'll talk more, but we got another commercial break and we'll be right back. Thank you.
All right.
I think sometimes we do the things that we didn't have. So I didn't have that when I was setting my business. And I didn't have people telling me, hey, oh, this is the hole that you have. And here's some people that can help fill that hole. You don't have to do everything yourself. You don't have to. You
Right,
can,
right.
but we're not meant to
I
do it ourselves as business people either.
Okay, and that's a question that I have also. And I was raised to be a housewife, and I wasn't raised to have a career. And I don't know how many other women my age or, various ages were groomed in that way. And at this point in my life, I don't really want to start a career. Are there women in the group who are not business entrepreneur oriented that are a part of the group just to help them, I don't want to say find themselves, but really be okay with where they are and not pursuing these big dreams, because there's a big push out there for women to be these, hardcore powerful women, empowered, which I want women to be empowered, but I don't believe everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. Are there women in the group who just want to be women or moms or just be okay with where they are and give themselves permission? Does that all make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I'm going to say this and just expand it a little because I feel like all of us need to be okay with where we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have some people that are in a different season, right? And so we have some people some people call it empty nesters or whatever, little titles that we have to it. Right. And that's a very special season that needs to be nurtured and understood. But what I say to people that tell me, well, and I had a couple of women, it was really beautiful conversation we had on our last retreat, as a matter of fact. And someone said, I'm in this stage, I've already had a business, I've done a business, I've sold my business, or I left the business, or I retired.
Hey, you guys, welcome back. Talking with Ryan Owens, and we're getting deep in his transformation. So, Ryan, Your
Yes.
family. You said you were on the road to destruction. How did you turn it all around? Because people think that healthy just means the body, but it means all aspects of our lives. One, our relationships. So tell me how you got things back on track.
Well, everyone says that the first year of marriage is the hardest. I would contend to say it's the last year. Because the last year when I was heading towards getting a divorce, our court date was set for yesterday to get a divorce and to separate this family. Um, During the time that I was given and gifted, I know at this point, during this process, I have found that things are not happening to me. They were happening for me. They are great opportunities if you are willing to see them for what they are. So I had a period of time that was off, away from them. She and my kids had moved in with my in-laws that live in the same neighborhood as us, but I was in deep isolation, and I could have had a lot of things happen because I had been deeply, steeped in new age practices. I could have got back to, get, smelling Palo Santo underneath the moonlight and journaling and clicking crystals together and humming and doing ohms and, relying on my inner self to find that higher self. Maybe I could drag some fluid up from my root chakra and somehow enlighten myself during this period of time. No, I had done that. It doesn't work. Been there, got the t-shirt. When I started connecting to God, all things started clicking. And I want to say something about that proof again. If you're not willing to do the experiment of trying to give yourself a relationship with God, and you just want proof right off the bat, like you want to see something miraculous happen, or you want to see, if God's here, I need it to rain right now. Do not test God in that way. You are going to have to do the work, which is surrender all these other modalities, surrender all this perpetual healing, surrender the community and the tribe and the ecstatic dancing and the pleasure seeking and this higher self seeking, and seek God. In James 4:8, it says, you seek God and he will seek you out. I did that and God seeked me out. If you have any inkling of a calling that God's wanting you to be in his life, and drop all the perpetual healing. We're all traumatized. Earth University is a tough class. You're probably beat down and you've tried all these things. Try God and then you'll get the proof. Because again, real transformation takes place with the real relationship with God. So I tried to do it all on my own. I tried to find every single way that the earth and people and humans and communities and different churches and New Thought and Taoism and Buddhism and Hinduism and East to West, because I'm an internet person. I've got access to everything.
Right.
Success leaves clues. And it was a clue when nothing was working and I constantly needed healing. Constantly was never I mean, I don't know if you know anybody who does the ayahuasca treats, but they're like, I saw God and God gave me this deep message, but I had to go back. I must have forgot the message. I'm going back again. Like when Jesus healed the blind, that was it. There's no course. There's no come back next week. There's no invoice. It was a healing that was done right on the spot and never had to be visited again. You're healed. And I actually feel healed at this time. The addiction was one thing. The exercise was great. The food intake's awesome. Getting rid of the supplements. But the greatest transformational tool I had was seeking and finding a relationship with God.
Wow. I literally got chills through that whole thing.
I have some myself.
For me, that's proof of truth. When I get chills, it's like bing, that's right. I
Well,
never
I love that.
understood it. Yeah. So now I know you're helping other men. Uh, what's the group? Forge Brotherhood.
Forged Brotherhood. Forged Brotherhood. That's an interesting story as well. But
Okay.
yes,
Sure.
well, I want to tell you about it because this is an
Okay.
interesting topic, because I started it out because it was at a period of time when I wasn't necessarily having this deep seeking relationship with God again. I was kind of on still the path of, relying on a bunch of books and gurus and YouTube videos instead of relying on God. but I knew there was a need for men to no longer suffer in silence, that a lot of men don't have a space to be able to express themselves and be seen and be heard. But I wanted to keep it as far away from anything godly or Bible study or anything that is possible. That was my original intention. I was like, there's a bunch of church groups, there's a lot of Bible studies out there. I want to bring something for, all secular and everyone to come together. And the first meeting, we did a breath work. We did a deep somatic breath work where we allowed for people to, huff and puff and, get a lot of stuff out. But there was something that happened after that. I believe in breathing. Okay. I believe in breath work. There's a lot of ways that I've used it to calm down my nervous system, to be able to rest and digest, or even gain energy and things like that. But we were using breath as a way for us to kind of circumvent God's true healing. Again, I realized that I was working on teaching other men how to heal themselves instead of, because that was the intention. I want us to do it. I'm very complex. I wanted it to just be a space for men to be seen and be heard, to have conversations and talk about things. So that's what we're getting back to. But I had this kind of crisis going on because as I was during that time of starting the men's brotherhood, the Forge Brotherhood, I also had God re-entering my life in a strong way. And I realized, like, I don't want to perpetuate people circumventing needing God and Christ in their life and have that true deep source of all of that healing and try to conjure it up ourselves and whatnot. There was a conflict in my conscience about that. So I actually skipped November, and I'm starting in a new where it's just a simple place for men to be able to come together, CEOs, entrepreneurs, men's fathers, to be able to actually be seen and heard. But I don't want to prevent, which was my original intention, for them to learn more about what I'm experiencing and how I think that there's a true source of healing that we should probably spend more time tuning into instead of just tuning into ourselves for our own healing, to heal ourselves, to basically be our own God and healer. I realized I didn't want to perpetuate that message anymore. So things have changed a bit very quickly because of everything that's going on, but the Forge Brotherhood remains. But we're going to transform it a bit, and less us healing ourselves and more just talking amongst men and having a space to no longer be in isolation or suffering in silence. So it's changed a bit.
But all you can do all those things with the intention of God, using the power of
Yes.
God, because,
Yes.
through our breath, we release 70% of toxins. I don't know
Yes.
if you know that.
Yeah.
And
I love breath.
there's, a lot of these things that might be considered new age. Like I believe in sound therapy. I believe in
Me too.
aromatherapy
Me too.
because these are all things that God created for us to utilize, pieces of his nature that we can use to keep ourselves
Yes.
in balance and coherence, as long as the intention is that it's him, not us. Because
That
he's
is the key.
okay. Okay. Because I'm always teaching classes about um, knowing the inner knower, the inner healer. Like when we were talking about proof, people are like, well, there is no proof. I'm like, well, did you get up this morning? To me, that's proof. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I do. And what you're saying, I'm glad that this is intersecting right here, because I'm not someone who's finding God and then demonizing everything. I see a lot of people doing that.
right.
The herbs of the earth are here for our healing. Our own breath is absolutely healing. And one of the best things that I have found, scents and aromatherapies and sound healing, obviously, listen to a good song is going to bring your joy up. God's provided that. The one thing that I wanted to not perpetuate was the lie that all the healing is just simply coming from our own efforts, from our
Right.
own self. Other than that, I believe in all those healing things. I just want to be more of an advocate from what the source, the true source of all that healing actually comes from.
Yes. And I'm 100% in agreement with you on that as well. Oh my gosh. we're about to have one more break, and
Are
then
you
we're
really?
yeah, we're just about over. But I could talk all day on this. We'll,
Me too.
we'll be right back.
Okay,
Thanks.
we'll be back.
And you would
Yeah.
think, even a VA hospital, if you're a veteran, that they would have a program like this.
You would think, yeah, you would think, but it's not as simple to resolve as it sounds, because you have to have the volunteer personnel, you have to have the
Mhm.
space, you have to, it's not just watching the dog, it's being able to take that dog to a veterinarian if it needs medical attention.
Mhm.
Um, there's just so many components to it. And I know this because we put the program together, and we've been learning as we've gone, because there's no one we can call and go, hey, how did you handle this? So I mean, we've really learned a lot, and I understand why it's not as easy.
So, what lessons have you learned that you can impart with our listeners?
I would say without a doubt, the big lesson that I've learned in all this is the importance of the people that you choose to allow to be around you. That has been
Love
absolutely
that.
my life. I know for whatever reason, I used to fancy myself as a great leader when I was growing up. I thought I was a leader amongst all the kids and all that stuff. But all I know is every time I hung around people that did drugs, I did drugs. And so I needed to understand that stepfather growing up, he'd always tell me, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are.
Welcome back, everybody. We're almost done with this amazing conversation having with Ryan Owens, Forged to Wholeness. So, as a video marketing person, how has that, as a trainer, become an extension of your faith and calling?
Well, I realize that you can have all the tools in the world, but really, if one thing that I like to use as part of the foundation of my teaching others how to utilize video and whatnot is the ability to get away from all of the spirits of fear and to lack of
Mm,
confidence in front of the camera, because we don't have a good self-image. And again, one of the
right.
things that has empowered me along my journey is that I'm not taking my self image from my past and my bad relationships and my
Mhm.
addictions and whatnot. My identity is now not my activity, but my identity is in Christ. My identity is with God. So that new self image and renewed self image allows for me to be able to show up. Because if your intention is to help people, everyone needs to know who you are. I want to be clear on that. If your goal is at all to help people, everyone should know you. So before I even go into tools and how to video edit and how to use AI and utilize this and all these different tools, we've got to work on the person. And that gives me the ability to put my purpose in my position. A lot of you don't think that you're in your purpose. You're in your position where you have to work and you get a 9 to 5 and you get paid. But within that, I also get to display my purpose, which is helping people find this godly self image, which doesn't have fear, which has confidence, and realizes that I'm here to help people and I'm going to get in front of the camera because more people need to know me because I'm a helper. I'm a go giver. And
Wow. I
if that's
love
not
that.
you, stay off camera. If you have no intention to help people and you just want to make some money and that's your pursuit, you don't need the camera. But if your intention is to really be of service to the world, we've got to get in front of the camera and tell people what it is that we are about and utilize the greatest way to proselytize, to market, to expose ourselves and get attention on us than God's ever provided, or technology, or the world. And
Right.
I work on the person. So that's the main thing that I do, is working on people's confidence and inspire them to know you've got something the world needs. Let's tell them about it. That's
Wow.
what it's all about.
Well, I want to work with you. And just hearing that just makes it really so much more reinforced. Does anyone ever say that when you walk into a room, like they feel it? Or since I have this incredible relationship with God, people have said to me, like, I don't know what it is about you. Like, they just want to be around you, or you light up a room, or there's just something different. Have you gotten that response yet?
There's been some very noticeable changes. I get those responses when I am most, working on my energy and my relationship with God. So right now in this period, when I go into a room, people remember. It leaves an impression, and I don't say that to be impressive, but to impress upon you that
Mm-hmm.
the Spirit of God works. It emanates. People can feel it when you're working on your relationship with God, and you're working on your body and mind, and you're working on your food intake. All that supplies a certain energy that the world's not used to.
Yep.
So they're going to notice it. So yeah, at the times like now, I absolutely am getting feedback from people like, wow, you really riled, the team that I just did a training for. They're like, we need you back ASAP, because the energy is present, and it's always going to be for people that are, taking care of their health, following God, taking care of their nutrition and their wellness. That
Mm-hmm.
provides a spirit that's noticeable. So yes, absolutely. People have been voicing that they have felt either a new energy, or just, we want more of your energy. And,
Right.
I want to give it, because the world needs us to
Yep.
give our energy to them. They need it.
I love it. I love it. If anyone would love to get in contact with you, and I highly suggest you do, where can we get in touch with you or connect?
Well, you can find me on some of my social media, like Instagram at Tampa Rhino. That's RYNO. You can find me on Facebook, where I'm quite active and talking about some more transparent parts of my journey, as well as my mortgage business and just overall whatever I want you to know. But I have a website, rhinomortgage.com, that has my contact information there and my socials. It's a very simply made website, contact information, so you can find me there. And I'd love to connect with people. Right now, I'm connecting with all the right people. So if you're connecting with me, you're part of that right people. So I look forward to talking to you.
Awesome. Me too. Thank you, Ryan. This was so great. It went so fast.
I know,
Um,
so fast. It was
yeah,
great.
you're an awesome guy. I'm glad we finally connected, and
We did it.
I think we're going to do a lot of good things together and
I
get
know it.
beautiful messages out there and help people find God and find themselves and live a better life. And
I love that. I'm on that mission with you. I'm going with you on that.
all right, great. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week for another great conversation on Taking Healthy Back with Maria. See you next time. Thanks so much.
This has been Taking Healthy Back with your host, Maria. Tune in each week as Maria will empower you to put your wellness in your control, right here, Fridays, noon Eastern, on the Bold Brave TV network.